We're here with Mr. Murdoch, the program chair over computer science here at Enzy College. He's going to give us 10 things we need to know before getting into the computer science field. So, Mr. Murdoch, the first question we have is, who can code?
Anyone can code.
Really?
Yes. And a lot of people think, I used to think that you had to be coding from the time you were 5 or something. Mm-hmm. I had a good friend in high school who was really good at programming, and at that time, programming did not sound fun to me. My dad was a programmer, and especially because of that, I did not want to be a programmer. But I've learned that you literally can be from any background. You might have never even used a computer before. It will take longer because you have to learn to use a computer before you can write code, but anyone can do it.
What about computers? Do you have to love computers?
So that's another good question, because a lot of people hate computers.
Sometimes I struggle.
Yeah, and those are great people to write code because they know what they hate about the things that they currently hate about computers. And so they should come in and rescue all the people like them that are trapped using software that was written by someone else.
Cool. What are some of the best teams that you've worked on? Like, what makes a good team in computer science?
So that's a great question. I've worked on some teams where we all get along, we all kind of have the same background. Maybe on a church team, we're all returned missionaries, we're all male, we're all in the middle of our lives raising children, for example. So we have a lot of things in common, you would think, and that might bring us closer together, which it does. The problem can be that we all think the same, and so, relatively the same. And the other thing is that maybe we all agree too much, and we're not willing to bring up different points of view. And so really what can help a lot, it's funny because you can bring one person to that team and it can change everything because they're willing to ask questions. They're willing to bring up the hidden elephant in the room that everyone's been staring at. And they come in and say, excuse me, what is this elephant doing here? And then everyone has to finally talk about it. Okay, well, the reason the elephant is there is because we put him there. Well, why did you do that? And so that one person can change everything. That's what I love about it.
Okay, so what if I try programming and the first time I try it, I just don't really like it? What do you think? Should I keep trying it?
Yeah, good. So if you don't like it at first, which I didn't, I took one programming class and then I quit. And actually, I've always regretted that because guess what I did for my whole career? I wrote code. But because I quit after the first class and I hated it, then I didn't get all the learning in college that I could have if I had stuck with it. Yeah. So don't give up.
What type of businesses use programmers?
Yeah, good question. So a long time ago, it was big companies that had a lot of money, or technical companies that were trying to do a startup business. Think of all these apps that you've heard of that came out of nowhere. Those were the people who could afford it because they had big investors or even small investors that had enough money to pay a programmer. Well, what's happened now is technology has exploded and it's disrupting everything. So little businesses, like I have a friend who has a bus routing company for 50 school buses, and they route kids to charter schools all day. They are hiring some programmers to help them write an app right now. They don't have a lot of money, but they do need the technology. So every business could use a software engineer.
How do software engineers help grow businesses?
Good. So in this bus example, they're limiting their way of thinking right now. We have to have a bus, okay? So we have to have a bus, we have to have a bus driver. But if you drive around with them on the bus, you'll notice something. You have 8 cars stuck together or driving next to each other, and they park at the same spot. They bring all their kids together, and then all these kids get on the bus and they ride around for an hour and a half to get to their school. Well, the parents probably don't like that they're spending an hour and a half on the bus on the way to school.
And back.
Yes. So if we went to those parents and said, look, I'll pay you $10 if you drive all these kids. So show up to that spot, get everyone on the bus, on your Suburban, drive them all to school. It'll take 30 minutes and you get $10 for your gas. That changes things. Well, we could write an app like Uber or Lyft, but a mini version just for that. And that could change the way the whole business runs. It can grow because right now that bus routing company is limited by capital. They have to afford a bus for every route they add. They also have to find drivers who are qualified and don't crash the buses. That's been a big problem for them to grow. So that would help them grow really fast. They can sell that app to every school district out there that wants to use it. And all they have to do is support the software. Now they can grow financially just from the sales of the software.
You mentioned earlier that when you were younger, you didn't really know much. Yeah. How much do you really need to know to get started?
Yeah, good question. So I'd say you just have to be curious. You have to have a question. So what do you want to learn about programming? It could be anything. Maybe you want to learn how to program a drone. Maybe you want to learn how to program a social media app. Just have a question. Go ask ChatGPT. How would I write an app to do fill in the blank? And it'll help you get started.
In such a male-dominant profession, do you think that more women should get into computer science?
Yes, the answer is a resounding yes. We need so many more women. And we talked earlier about a problem where a team has groupthink. They're all doing things the same way. They're not challenging the status quo. And it's not just that every woman wants to challenge the status quo, but usually when a woman enters a team, they have this contagious effect of communicating. It just happens naturally. Even with women who are more quiet and reserved, they just don't tend to accept silence. And so naturally, they'll start to wake up people that aren't really contributing just by the nature of the way they act. And I love that. I just love seeing a woman join a team. We can't get enough women in the field right now. And I've heard software engineering students say to me, Brother Murdoch, hey, I don't think I can make it as a woman. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. There's all these companies right now that if you were to go apply right now as a woman with a bachelor's degree in software engineering or an associate's degree in software engineering, they're going to eat that up. They're going to interview you and say, we want to meet you, we want to talk to you, and you're going to have a pick of your job. It's not a matter of getting an interview.
So you're saying if you're a girl getting into computer science, it'll be easy to get a job?
I think it's easier because they're looking for that unique perspective. They want to bring you onto those teams that are already kind of the same right now.
So women obviously bring a different perspective. What about cultural perspectives? What about people from other countries and upbringings and backgrounds?
Right. Yeah. So if you're developing an app for India or for Africa or for Latin America, then they're going to think differently. Another thing is if you're developing an app for the United States, but you only think the way you have your whole life growing up here, maybe there's some cultural norms that prevent you from seeing other angles to a problem. And so someone might say, well, in Mexico, when we get on a bus, there's just this bar and they have to put $1 in before that bar will move and let you in. Oh, that's interesting. That's one way of paying for it, right? Yeah. That opens your mind to some other possibilities.
Well, my last question is specifically about Enzy College, because I know you've worked in other places and taught at other schools, but what makes Enzy College's program unique? What makes it special?
I love the way Enzy College encourages, they not only encourage, but they measure the participation level in the classroom of the students, and that's the success for the teacher. If the teacher isn't getting the students into a problem, actively working on something, then they're not doing their job as a teacher. And not only do we say that on all of our banners and billboards and websites and ads, but it's actually measured in the classroom. So we expect it and we hold people accountable for that.
Enzy College is unique also in the way that it combines secular learning with spiritual learning. How do you feel like the Spirit changes the student's experience?
I really like that if a student comes in and is having a bad day, or a student is struggling for some reason with the gospel. I had a student come to me one day and say, hey, I'm just struggling with the honor code. And I said, well, what about it? And she just said, there's a lot of pressure to follow a lot of rules, and I don't really feel active in the church right now. And she just opened up to me in the classroom. And that was something you wouldn't see in a non-church or religious school. And we would probably get in trouble if we had that conversation. But we were able to lift each other up. And I said, hey, if you ever need to talk about those things, just let me know. And I'd love to discuss it. And then I watched her back during class. After that, I thought, you know, she's really struggling. I should go up to her and see if she needs any special help. And I just did it a few times, just walked behind her computer. Hey, how are things going today? She'd tell me. And she gave me this nice gift at the end of the year. And I thought, that's so awesome. That's the kind of relationships that I love that we can build here at Enzy College, because we go a different level. We go beyond just the things we're learning about the world, and we care about each other.
Thank you so much for letting us interview you today
Of course.
And talk about Enzy College Computer Science program.
My pleasure.
And thank you for watching. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you're interested in studying computer science here at Enzy College, click the link in the description.